So we'll consider it. We'll take it up further, and
Put it on the next
absolutely. Yep. Okay. Thank you. Anything else from public comment? Thank you. We'll move along to the public. Where are we now? 7 o'clock. Let's do the public hearing, which is item number 9. In accordance with Section 4-5, parens B, N, parens B, parens 1, and parens 1 of the Charter of the Town of Woodbridge, I now call this public hearing to order to receive comments regarding a proposed new ordinance entitled Ordinance Prohibiting Waste Associated with Natural Gas and Oil Extraction. The legal notice was published in the Woodbridge Town News on Friday, March 30th, 2018. Is there a motion to waive the reading of the legal notice?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of waiving the reading?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. We are, but we have a public hearing that has to be held at 7, so we jumped. I'm sorry, probably didn't hear me because it's hard. I'm sorry. Thank you. Who's going to describe the purpose of the proposed ordinance? Is it either Mika or Jerry? I'm not sure which. Okay, you want to do it, Mika?
This is the anti-fracking?
Yes,
The
correct.
ordinance is basically to indicating that is very specific information as relates to what is allowed or disallowed as relates to the prohibiting waste associated with natural gas and oil extraction in terms of its delivery through and within Woodbridge, and where it's used and how it's used by any companies or any entities that might be doing business with and or in Woodbridge as far as town properties are concerned.
Thank you. Is anyone from the public have any comments regarding the proposed ordinance? Has the clerk received any additional comments?
That is at 4:30 today.
Thank you. I now declare this public hearing closed, and I reconvene the Selectmen's meeting. Moving on to item number 10, board action on matter heard in public hearing. I will now ask for a motion to adopt the proposed ordinance. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right. The ordinance is adopted 5-1. And the ordinance will become effective May 11, 2018, which is 30 days from the date of adoption. So thank you all for that. Now we'll move back. We're jumping all over the place. Item 7, the public opinion survey results. And I have a little bit of an introduction before we start. Just to remind everyone, Amity teacher Rick Bordeaux is here to present the public opinion survey results. I'm very excited. He will introduce his team of students, and I want to extend my thanks to them all. Here they come. Just one note, all the surveys that the Amity team have been analyzing have now been returned here to Town Hall. There is a big box in my office, and it is very big. And they are now, as of this evening, all public documents and available for anyone who would like to come in and go through them, take a look at them, and or receive a copy of them per FOI request.
Just as a point of clarification, what I gave you was copies of them. I actually bought the original.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. All right. So thank you for that clarification. So I'll now turn it over to Rick.
Just give me a couple seconds.
And
No,
just
it's fine.
one other thing, this actual survey, which is being shown tonight, we have copies of that if anyone would like those, but we don't have them tonight because they're color and it's hard. We didn't have a lot of time. So, but if anyone would want, there's some there? Yeah. Okay, and if anyone else wants another one,
It's only to the
I'll
left
get
on the
'em.
front. Do we go?
it's in your packet.
Is it
Not in there? Oh, okay. You're going to hand them out at the end.
hand them out at the end.
Okay, that's right. Sorry.
They don't want us to.
Thank you very much. Again, just to read. I'm sorry, can you hear me now? No. No, it doesn't. Hello? Better? right. All right, I'll use my teacher voice.
All right.
So, again, thank you very much for the opportunity to do this. My name is Rick Bordeaux. I am a social studies teacher at Amity High School. And just for some background, before I was a teacher, I was a market research professional. And so I did this in my previous career before I decided to become a teacher. With me, I have four Amity students with me. I have Jeremy Gustafson, Evan Kinseth, where's Mariana? Mariana Kahiri, and Helen Lensky. 3 are from Woodbridge. Jeremy's the rogue orange person. That's okay. We allow them to be part of this anyway. So they were invaluable in helping us prepare this, and they are as intimately familiar with the results as I am. So with that, let's go. Okay, now, there we go. So, okay, to run you through this, we will, all right. I'm gonna need assistance over there. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So just the presentation, we're going to follow the following outline. We're going to go through the background and the timeline, and then from that we'll talk about the methodology and how it was done. The bulk of the presentation will be the results of the survey, specifically the Country Club of Woodbridge land use, the proposals that we put in the questionnaire, then the part of the questionnaire about living in Woodbridge in general, and then the demographics. And then we're going to our conclusions based on what we saw. Okay. So for the background and timeline, First Selectman Beth Heller actually wanted to give Woodbridge residents an opportunity to voice their opinions regarding future direction of the former Woodbridge Country Club site through public opinion survey. In the fall of 2017, Superintendent Charles Dumais gave approval for assistance at Amity School, high school faculty and students to help out with this. First of all, to provide authentic experience for the students. This is about as authentic as they get, right? Utilize Amity staff experience. We have not only me, but my colleague Scott DeMayo, AP Stats teacher, helped with this analysis. He couldn't make it tonight. And then field and execute a professional study at minimal cost to taxpayers. I did not receive any money for this. The kids, we did not receive any money for this. The only thing the kids are going to get is I'm going to get them a little something as a thank you from me after we're all done. The questionnaire was designed from November 2017 to January 2018. There was one official questionnaire mailed to each household in Woodbridge, and that was 3,234 were mailed in total. It was to be completed by a member of the household and either returned by mail or placed in one of the 2 drop boxes at the library of the town hall. Additional questionnaires were provided upon request. Those, we did count those, and we reviewed those, but they weren't not included in the final analysis. And just as an aside, this is the exact same methodology that was used in a survey that was done for the town, for Selectman Morello, when you were here in 2002. We saw what you did, and we mirrored the same methodology. Okay. But it was it was right. But based on what the documentation I saw, it was the same methodology. The field period was originally scheduled to open the first week in February and close on Monday, February 12th. But the U.S. Post Office there was a delivery delay. So that led to most households receiving the survey late. So the field period was extended to February 20th. We received 851 usable official questionnaires, and that was returned by February 20th. That represented a 26.3 response rate. It was very good. But there was another 127 official surveys returned after February 20th. That was counted and reviewed, but it was not included in the final analysis. And there were 60 supplemental surveys received. Those are the ones that people wanted additional copies. So again, those are counted and reviewed, but not included in the final analysis. All right, now the methodology. Can I hit it again? Yeah. See how it works? Woodbridge First Selectman Beth Heller designed and administered this mail survey with input and assistance from the Woodbridge Board of Selectmen, Town Hall staff, the public, and Amity High School staff. Amity High School staff and students collected the unopened surveys. We came here and picked them up. They were not opened by anybody here. Tabulated the data, conducted the analysis, and prepared this presentation of the results and initial finding. The data were weighted by gender and age, and that was based on the most recent census information and estimates, because the last census was done in 2010, so we had and since this is 2018, we actually have to look and see if there's been any changes based on the best estimates that we can find to ensure that the sample obtained is an accurate reflection of the town of Woodbridge's householder population. Okay. In interpreting survey results, all sample surveys are subject to possible sampling error. Just hit this to the end because this is a lot of stat talk. But essentially, this talks about how when we're analyzing data, we're looking at to see if the sampling error, if there's a big enough spread in order to make reasonable conclusions. And based on the sample size we got, ours was pretty robust. So the table on the next page represents the estimated sampling error for different percentage distributions of responses. So we got, like I said, 850 surveys. So, for example, if a response to a given question to which all 151 respondents answered was exactly 50%, we could be 95% confident that the true percentage would fall within plus or minus 3.4 percentage points, or 46.6 to 53.4. It's very strong. All right. Study results. And first we're going to talk about the niche. If you remember the survey, the first 6 questions were specific results, specific proposals. This is the first one. Question 1A, please let us know what you think about each of the following ideas regarding the property. And the first one was return to the previous arrangement where a private company operates golf while the town operates the pool and continues to pay off the existing debt. Now, we asked this as a 10-point scale, where 10 was absolutely favor, and 0 was absolutely opposed, and 5 was neutral. Those are 3 words that were in the questionnaire as anchors, but then the numbers were on the questionnaire 0 through 10. And if you could see, when I put together presentations like this, I like to use what's called the stoplight effect. So the good is the green, and the bad is the red, and the not so, and the in the middle is kind of yellow. And then, so the brighter green is absolutely favor. So 19% absolutely favored that proposal as written. Another 4% said 9, another 9% said 8, and so on down the line. 28% were solidly opposed, absolutely opposed, and circled a 0. When we do the analysis, that's good to look at to see the extremes, but we do collapse them a little bit to see if we combine 8, 9, and 10 together. If you're saying 8, you're closer to absolutely favor than neutral. So when we do that analysis, you can hit that, please. 32% either scored at 8, 9, or 10, and 36% said either 0, 1, or 2. All right. Oh, okay. Is it possible to go back one? Yeah. So the finding from this is that while some would be interested in returning to the previous golf pool arrangement, just as many, if not more, are opposed. And then we also looked at this by the demographics that we captured. We captured gender, we captured age. We had to collapse age into under 45 just so we had enough people to analyze. Support for return, hit it please. Support for returning to the previous golf pool arrangement is consistent among genders and age groups. Older residents are more likely to be opposed. For number 1B, keep the entire parcel and dedicate it as open recreational space while the town operates the pool and continues to pay off the existing debt. Hit it, please. Twice. Thank you. Some support dedicating the entire parcel to open space recreation, but significantly more are opposed. Those under 45 years old tend to be more supportive of keeping the entire parcel for open recreational space than those 45 and older, and females are more supportive, but to a lesser extent. And to keep it on that slide for a second, just so you know how to read what those little letters are, what the program has stat testing to see exactly if there's a meaningful statistical difference at the 95% confidence interval. So if you see that 37 with the A, that means that 37% is significantly different than what's in column A with the capital letter, which would be male, which has a capital A. So that 37% is significantly different than the 26%. For age, instead of using capital letters, we use small letters, so A, B, C, D. And so that 44% is significantly higher than the 26% in column B, so age 45 to 54, and age 55 to 64, which is column C. Okay? Similarly, while there is some support for the town renovating the clubhouse for town use while keeping the rest open space, significantly more opposed. So this is the third question where town rehabilitates the clubhouse and reserves the building for future use by town departments for community uses. Preserve the remaining property as open space, recreational space golf, while the town operates the pool and continues to pay off the existing debt. Another thing to keep in mind while we're analyzing these particular charts is the way that the question's phrased. That the people who are saying that they favor are favoring everything in there. Everything in, if they're opposing, they might like some of it, but they might not like another part, so they're reacting to the thing that they don't like is what might be bringing their score down a little bit. But we can be confident that like the 15% who absolutely favored what was written, like everything there. Again, those under 45 and females tend to be more receptive to this side. Okay. So this 1D. Sell a portion of the land for age-restricted over 55 housing. Dedicate the remainder of the parcel as open space, recreational space, golf, while the town operates the pool and pays off the existing debt. 39% say 8, 9, or 10 on that. 40% say are opposed. There's pretty strong opinions both sides on this one, and which is not a surprise. Attitudes toward over 55 housing proposal are the strongest, both pro and con. Roughly the same number favor versus opposed. And I'm gonna we'll go back for a second. We're gonna actually have a slide in a couple slides. So we'll compare all 6 together side by side. But you'll see that out of all of them, this one's the closest. This one, I will air quotes most support, but that's you'll see. Those who are near or at the age of eligibility for over 55 housing tend to be the most receptive to the idea. So those are actually might be considering to do this in the relatively near future are even more receptive to the idea than the people who are younger. Okay. Mm-hmm. Selling the entire parcel for single-family homes is not a very popular option. Need I say more? It's not a popular option across. No, let's go back. It's not a popular option across different age or gender groupings either. Okay, now wait. Selling the clubhouse for commercial use has some support, but most are opposed. So if you sell or lease the clubhouse building with or without some adjacent land for commercial use as a recreational facility, banquet hall, or the use, preserve the remaining property as open space, recreational space, golf, while the town operates the pool and pays off any existing debt. 26% total opposed, total favor, and 33 opposed. Those under 45 tend to be more open to this idea. Those over 65 more opposed. Okay. So this is the side-by-side one. While most proposals generate some support, all have notable numbers of detractors. Slightly more favor the over 55 housing proposal compared to the others. Hit it, please. Right there. Okay. All right. So about 2/3 volunteered at least one idea. I'll do this one and so about 2/3 volunteered at least one idea for the land. About 1/3 volunteered at least one idea why. The next question we asked was an open-ended question. And we said, based on what you know and feel right now, what would you like to see done with the former country club property? And then why? I've capitalized what and why because essentially there are 2 questions in there. So we analyzed it as 2 questions. You can mention something previously described or mention any other ideas you may have. So 62% mentioned at least one what. And 35% of the respondents mentioned at least one why. So I'm going to call Evan Kinseth up to the microphone, and I'll let him continue this part. And just to let you know, the percentages that he's going to talk about are based on the people who actually answer the question.
Click, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's it.
So out of the 62%, there were many different responses, and they're there on the board. And so by category, there were 75% of people responded saying they want at least some open recreational space. We broke that down into different portions. 36% saying open space or recreational space. 30% saying golf. That's both public and private options. And then keeping and operating existing facilities, which consists of the clubhouse and other facilities that are there. In the pool is 30%. And then other uses, 8%. And then many people mentioned tearing down the facilities of 8%. selling 7%, and land wild is 1%. And then many people mentioned building and developing the land being 51% of people saying that housing has 35% total, with 30% saying that they wanted over 55 housing, and 8% saying they would like no age restrictions. Other development was also popular with 19%, and a lot of that was unspecified, but commercial development and other options are broken down into more popular options for there.
Point out is that these add to more than 100 because there were multiple things that people were talking about. So anytime they mention something, we have a 2-page group list, and anytime they mention something, they were coded. There's some people we allowed up to 10 codes, and I say most people are answering probably average 3 or 4, maybe 5. So there's a lot of deep things. Okay?
And we do have information. We do have information that we'll give to the board about further details on those numbers, but those are the general overview. I'll have Jeremy.
No.
Oh, Alan, speak.
Hi. So I'm Helen, and I'm just going to read off some quotations that we pulled from the surveys that we read. We read all of them.
And these are meant to, we could talk about a whole bunch of numbers, but these are the actual voice of the people, and they were selected at random, but it adds a lot of flavor and depth to the numbers. So all these are going to be about at least some recreation space. So, okay.
Age-restricted housing on part of the property, open space on rest of property, no golf.
Number 18 means respondent number 18. I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
But it's respondent number 18.
Yep, we numbered all the surveys. I'd most prefer to keep the entire parcel and dedicate it as open space with walking paths. It's beautiful land that could serve as an area for exercise, running, walking, birdwatching, etc. Sell some to a college or business, keeping some open space. The whole property needs to be kept in some fashion as preserved for the people of Woodbridge. This could mean open space, golf, other restrictions, park, etc., but under no circumstance developed for any form of housing or commercial use. The property should be kept as open space with the town operating pool/recreational facilities for profit. I think it could be made into a lovely town park with something for everyone. I think there could perhaps be an area reserved as an off-leash dog park in a grassy flat area. I am pro dog park. Cluster housing, 55 plus, combined with ample open space for town residents.
You can see there's all over. Even though this is about some people talking about open recreational space, and the numbers, it was in the 70%, at least gave at least one mention about some kind of open space, but it could be attached to different things. Okay. These are golf mentions.
I liked the Yale proposal for a hotel and professional golf course. Attempt to return it to an operational country club through either town management or sell it to interested party with that stipulation. An affordable golf venue would be great, maybe even an executive 9-hole. Age-restricted over 55 housing, open land, small independent golf with 9 holes. I would like to see it sold to a proper golf course operation. It's a tremendous layout, better than competitive courses in the area. Lease undeveloped land along Whitfield Road for over 55 housing. Use proceeds from lease and taxes to fund golf and clubhouse rehabilitation. I would like to see the once beautiful golf course opened and running for public clubhouse, possibly fine dining facility and town pool for town residents only. It would be a nice alternative to having to join a country club. Lastly, continue as town golf course with reasonable member fees. Open clubhouse for facility rental space.
Next one's about keeping operating the existing facilities.
My family has been pool members for the past few years. It is one of the things we most enjoy about Woodbridge. The pool provides a friendly community meeting place and a great opportunity for recreation and exercise. There is a loyal membership which I believe would increase if the pool is maintained and heated. Lease the clubhouse, town operates the pool. I would like to see the pool/rec building kept operational. I like the idea that people can rent out that rec space for parties, etc. 55 plus over housing with preserving 9 holes of golf and pool operation. Town runs golf and pool. Lease clubhouse to private entity for bar/restaurant/banquet facility. This would provide enjoyment for all age groups/interests and give the community a great place to come together. Mixed-use space for clubhouse, sports facility like batting cages, and community space for gathering, workspaces, cafe/restaurant. Please leave me my pool. I am the resident pool queen. Maintaining pool is a good idea and is popular. Addition of a kid's splash pad would be excellent. Current pool rates are high though, and more in line with clubs, which feature other services. Sorry. As a resident in the age category of 55 to 64, it would be convenient to have the option of selling my home, but be able to stay in the town in affordable senior housing, rather than having to search for another place to live with the same things I like about Woodbridge. I would love to see the pool, clubhouse, and tennis courts used for the town, together with 55 plus housing that is affordable. I believe this would add diversity and experience to our town and allow young families to move in when older couples transition to 55 plus housing. Pool and open space and senior home. I like keeping the pool for the town and like selling part of the land for 55 plus housing. I would most favor selling part of the property for unrestricted residential and or commercial, not 55 plus. I would favor an easement to allow higher density development, which is much better for the environment. The revenue from sale could help retire the debt. Keeping part of property for open space is imperative. Partial 55 plus housing with remainder as open space. We need tax revenue to help pay off property and add to tax base while not adding students to school system. Sell or lease the clubhouse land for corporate campus. Sell. Any sale of all or part of the property would certainly benefit the town financially as well as help the tax roll. Sell the property. The town needs to grow. I'd like to see mixed-use development that would help make Woodbridge feel current, instead of like a backwoods small town. I live here solely for the school district.
Not our words.
We need to have businesses that generate money for the town. Would be great to have some nice stores, for example, Whole Foods, Williams-Sonoma, or Ann Taylor.
Amen. We can't even get diners there.
I would like to see an interesting center of town with shops, restaurants, something like New Canaan or Westport.
All right.
Okay.
Now I call Jeremy.
Yep.
Good evening. So, I will be talking about the whys. Roughly 35% of all people who submitted a survey listed a why in their second question. Yep. There were a multitude of reasons why someone listed a why. The largest one was save money, which was 62%. In that range, it was roughly, for the first one, need to pay off debt, which was 28%. Reduce taxes, 19%. Generate revenue, 15%. Cost too much to maintain/operate, 9%, referring to the plot of land, and cut losses, 2%.
Bulk of what they've been doing for the past 6 weeks is reading these open ends and coding them. You spent a long time, so they're actually very intimately familiar with this.
The next one is preserve nature of the town, meaning keeping the town practically the same. It was roughly 22%. Keep rural characters, 9%. Don't change zoning / slippery slope, meaning don't change zoning regulations, which was 9%. Don't want to expand the school districts because that could pose a problem. That was 4%. 2% was they don't want development near where they live. And 1% talked about how they do not want cluster housing. The next largest one was they wanted some change was needed in the town, which was 14%. More recreational options were needed, said 5% of people. People wanted to increase the tax rate, roughly 4% of people. Town was, or is too rural, was 1%. And that 1% was also okay with expanding the school districts.
And these are, so it's not based on any of this. The only prompt that they would have had is reading the first part of the survey.
Yes. Okay. And then for spending, 3 people were okay with spending more money. And then there were 2 other Ys equaling 18%. 5% wanted to downsize and stay in the town, meaning elderly people who wanted to move out of their current houses and move into possibly over 55 housing. And 4% said it was the current land is ugly right now.
Town had a lot to read there before.
Yeah.
Okay,
There's
not that
sure.
many this
Yeah.
time, so I'm happy with these. So these are the same money items.
Sell half the property, pay off the debt should be the priority. The remaining property could be kept for open space. Stop throwing good money after bad. How many pools, tennis courts, golf courts do we need? I would like the town to use it for commercial space and as a form of revenue for the town, since the town greatly needs more business and revenue. Sell it off to reduce the debt, sell it to developers, add to the tax base. You are destroying the town with your excessive taxes. The taxes in Woodbridge are too high. The town should not try to operate a golf course. I would favor mixed housing and open space. Cluster housing for over 55 with open space preferred, so it helps with taxes and lets people stay in the community when owning / upkeeping a house is more difficult. It is important that the solution helps pay off at least some of the debt. We do not need more ball fields. Any plan that would result in a reduction in taxes would be appreciated. If the town can't pay the property debt, the place needs to generate a revenue to be economically independent. We, the taxpayers, can't subsidize that property. Our family is most in favor of preserving the land and seeing Woodbridge maintain a quiet residential town feeling. It's the reason we moved to Woodbridge. We will gladly pay taxes to protect the land than to see a development sprout up over time. No housing of any kind, no zoning changes. This will set a precedent for future changes in development. No housing. Keep Woodbridge quaint. Open space is of inherent value and cannot be replaced once lost. It makes living in Woodbridge better. It shouldn't be given up for short-term profit / tax reductions. Sell it to 55 and over housing, more tax revenue, same number of kids in schools. Do not develop the land with a different zoning regime from that of the rest of the town. That risks our whole town. The town should place an open space restriction on the property to prevent development. The Woodbridge Country Club was such an asset to the town. It should never have closed. It was used by the youth of the town to the retired aged community. The town should have supported the banquet facility, restaurant, tennis, golf course, and pool collectively to restore the entire premise. We do not have a lot of recreation in Woodbridge. The club should be made into a great restaurant. We need a place to go other than out of town for dining and social activities. This would help to introduce business and keep people in the town to spend money. I just moved here from other town because of 95 traffic, but would love to see restaurants and a real town center. I would like to see the entire property developed with over 55 housing. That would result in a net tax revenue increase. Would like to see over 55 condos, so we do not have to move to Orange, Brantford, or any town when ready to downsize. We love Woodbridge. Go back to being a golf course. As an open space, the land is currently poorly maintained. Yes. Old golf course is an eyesore and a disgrace. I would like to see senior housing options for active people over 55 who want to maintain or remain in Woodbridge.
This is Marianne. And she's going to start the conversation about living in Woodbridge in general.
Okay, so the third question that was asked was how long have you lived in Woodbridge? And not surprisingly, the older people are, the more years they've spent in Woodbridge. So
Put the slide in. Really not a great surprise.
yeah. Okay. That's the good stuff. Okay. So basically, question 4 and 5 was circle the things you best like and dislike about Woodbridge, and according to the statistics, the top 4 that people like about Woodbridge are the small town atmosphere, the Amity school system, open space, and Beecher school system. And there's not much opposition to that, as it varies from 4 to 3%. And the things that people dislike the most are the tax rate and the appearance of the business district, which about 76% of the people who did a survey said that they disliked the tax rate, and over 50% said that they hated the appearance of the business district.
Generally, we ask people about spending money.
Yeah.
But that's pretty high, and that's actually this one question was asked in 2002, and we actually asked the same question that you asked in 2002. And we didn't do that comparison on this chart, but we got that information. Anybody wants to see it, but that tax rate number is a little higher. The appearance of the business district thing is that actually there's more people who dislike it.
And the thing that varied the most between 2002 and 2018 is the fact that Amity school systems had a like percentage of about 26, I think it was. And now you guys went up. Yeah. So, and now it's up to 62%. So good job.
Well, exactly.
No reflection on the students.
And these our students here were babies when the budget referendum thing was happening. So I had to educate them a little bit about that town history. Okay.
And the other one that's not maybe a 10 or 20% difference was Beecher school systems, but that's also the same issue. So good. Yeah.
Usually, if we're doing a presentation, we would actually have them stay for the whole presentation. But Marianne has a biology test to study for. So she didn't know she's going to be getting out.
Good luck.
So we're going to let her go.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yes, please. So, question 6 was how strongly would you consider paying for yourself and or family members to use the town pool during the summer of 2018? And we used the same scale where 10 was absolutely consider, 0 was absolutely not consider, and 5 was not sure. And while that looks like, well, 52% would absolutely not consider it, and only 21% would say either 8, 9, or 10, with only 12% saying absolutely consider, it's not like you would need the whole town to use the pool in order to be viable. So that's an interesting stat to me. Younger residents show more interest in using the town pool than the older ones. While a clear majority would likely not be interested in playing golf regularly, 1 in 5 may. So actually similar stats to what we saw at the pool. So if a public golf were available again on the property, how strongly would you and or someone in your household consider playing on average 1 round a week from April to October? And 45 to 54-year-olds would be the most likely interested in playing golf. Question 9 was, you may or may not be considering moving anytime soon. However, if you end up selling your home within the next 10 years, how strongly would you consider moving into an age-restricted over 55 housing in Woodbridge if it were available and if you were eligible? 29% they'd consider it, with 19% saying they would absolutely consider it. 41% saying they probably wouldn't consider it, with 33% saying they absolutely would. Okay? This is especially true among those who are currently 65 and over. Women are also more likely to consider it. Men tend to be more on the fence. Most plan to stay in Woodbridge for 20 years or more. So how much longer do you intend to stay in Woodbridge? And that was distributed in that question. And we're showing this question because we wanted to actually analyze that previous slide I showed you by this. Forward. So those considering moving in the next 10 years appear slightly more likely to consider over 55 housing in town than those who aren't considering moving anytime soon. So, okay. Then we're almost done. These are the demographics. We were actually a little slightly heavy male to female, so those are adjusted, but wasn't much. It was, I think it was 54-46 male female, so those are adjusted slightly to the population stats that we had. For age, we're going to weight it to householder. Obviously, there's more than 1% living in who are under 25 who live in town. But as far as being head of household, that was the estimate that we had. And the number of people who live in the household break down that way. So, in conclusion, based on the data, this is what we can safely say. There's no clear consensus among the townspeople of what to do with the former Country Club Woodbridge property. Specifically, none of the 6 specific proposals asked about in the study received the majority of support. But 5 out of 6 had notable levels of support. The only one that didn't was the single-family housing. Oh, I forgot. I typed it. Only selling the entire parcel for single-family homes opposed by a clear majority. There is a clear and sizable support for over 55 housing in the town, but there's also clear and sizable opposition. Nevertheless, there appears there could be, and I used as much fuzzy language as I could because it's just based on the survey results, there appears there could be, and this is our opinion, there could be a market among the townspeople for over 55 housing if it is built. A notable number said that they would consider playing golf regularly on the property and or using a pool. Like I said, that you don't need a majority of people to express interest to make either one of those things viable. But, and the final point we want to leave you with, when considering solutions, town leaders should keep in mind the following. Most people like Woodbridge rural small town feel and the education system. And most people overwhelmingly dislike the tax rate, followed by the appearance of the business district. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Are there any questions? Yes.
So you had a sizable number that came in after that.
Yes.
Did you analyze those, and were those, first of all, did you analyze those?
Yes, we did.
And were they?
No notable difference. Absolutely not. There's no notable difference between surveys coming in before the deadline and after the deadline. Like if we included them in the sample.
I'm going to ask the board tonight to comment or ask brief questions, but I would remind everyone in TV land as well as in the public here this evening that 2 weeks from this evening on August, oh my gosh, April 25th, sorry. At 5 o'clock, we're going to have an open discussion, question and answer, where the public will be allowed to come. So be sure to pick up a copy, have it emailed to you guys if you want to take a look at it, analyze it yourself. Rick will be available to answer questions regarding the survey, and then the board as well will be able to do the same.
Will that be sent to us electronically?
Yeah, actually, we have copies for you guys.
I'd rather have it electronically.
Okay, well, we made one anyway, so, okay.
You got both? You got both? Yeah,
Sure.
I'll distribute them once we're done.
And then we have, anyone who would like an electronic copy, please call Mrs. Short tomorrow, and we'll be happy to send it to you via email.
Thanks.
Okay? So, does the board have any specific questions this evening, or would you like to wait for 2 weeks?
I thought it was very informative, and your students did a wonderful job presenting.
Yes, they did.
I really want
Yes,
to
they did.
thank you on behalf of all of us for what a great job. It was very interesting. Thank you. And the
our
students
pleasure.
did a fabulous job. It's so nice to see you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You get it. Credit for that.
Thank you. David? Okay, where are we? Item 8. Okay. Going on to item 8. Is someone here from the Garden Club of Woodbridge for use of town property and signage? Okay, so I will, we have it right. So the Garden Club of Woodbridge right to request permission to hold the annual plant sale on Saturday, June 2nd, 2018, from 9 to 12 at the Old Firehouse Grove, and to place a sign announcing the sale on the Old Firehouse Triangle, and another in the Old Firehouse Grove the day of the sale. The signs are approximately 24 by 51 and are the same as used in the past. We request your permission. Encompass set up for the sale on June 1st from 5:30 to 7:30. Arrival for the sale at 8 a.m. on June 2nd, as in the past, the use of the canopy in the event of rain. This year, for the first time, we planned that our sale will coincide with the Friends of the Woodbridge Library used book sale the same day, which we hope will be mutually beneficial. Proceeds of our sale are used for nonprofit activities, including civic beautification. Thank you very much. From the President, Joanne D'Angelo. I'll entertain a motion that we approve the request as just read. Is there a second?
So moved.
Is there any discussion or questions on this?
I'll move second.
Okay.
No.
Any questions? All in favor?
Okay.
Thank you very much. And now we move on to the second request, which is from the Woodbridge Land Trust regarding 902 Baldwin Road. You have in your packet a copy of a presentation that Brian wanted us all to have ahead of time, and I would introduce Brian Pines. Thank you for coming. And this is related to signage and literature on town property. And for both of these are board action is appropriate. We did get that in there.
Yes.
So we'll be acting this evening. So
Again, thank you for the opportunity to talk to you about Baldwin Farm. I hope that you had the opportunity to look at the packet so that I could answer any questions for you. I'll try to keep it brief. I know we've been here quite a while. As you are familiar with the property, we have been trying to protect this property for at least over 10 years. That scenic Baldwin Road farm at 902 Baldwin Road would be terrible if it was lost to high-density development. So we've always been looking at that property, and the trust, Woodbridge Land Trust, now has the opportunity to purchase the property development rights, which we're all familiar with how this works, but it would ensure that the property remains in agricultural use in perpetuity, and the public will have walking trails, which is one thing that we really would like to have developed. So we are presently seeking donations from town residents and organizations to help us reach our goal of raising $200,000. As you're aware, in 2004, there was a proposal to build a massive 755,000 square foot industrial park on that property. And then again in 2008, there was a proposal to develop a 340 assisted living unit healthcare facility on that property. Both of those were not able to obtain financing. Thankfully, because of the situation, it has remained as open space. Our hopes are that we can maintain it as a farm. So this property consists of 86 acres of woodlands, wetlands, and fields with a nice brook that runs through it. The prime farmland soils comprise 46 acres, which is 53% of the property. Protecting the property is consistent with the state's goals of conserving and restoring the natural environment and traditional rural land, and to promote agricultural businesses. That's why we're working actually with the State Department of Agriculture to achieve that. Protecting the property is also consistent with the Woodbridge's Town Plan Conservation and Development's goal to preserve farmland, fertile soils, and local agribusiness. It's also consistent with the Woodbridge Conservation Commission's Open Space Plan of 2017, which identifies this property as worthy of conservation. I'm proud to have the support of many of our local associates, the Woodbridge Parks Association, the Woodbridge Garden Club, the Amity Woodbridge Historical Society, and Mazzaro Farm, Community Farm, which I don't know if you got a copy of their letter of endorsement, but I have a copy for you as well. So tonight, what we're asking is that the Board of Selectmen vote to endorse the Trust's effort to preserve this as agricultural land. I just might add that on what struck me also on the letter from Mazzaro Farm, and it's always important to see the whole picture and what we want to what we perceive as what we want the town to have in the future. They said in their letter that we believe these efforts are as important to our community as the town's preservation of Mazzaro Farm was in 2008. One part of the mission of Mazzaro is to build community. And this is exactly what our hopes are for our town, to have agricultural communities where we have farms and people can either get produce or they could hay the field, whatever it is. We're interested in preserving this scenic and absolutely beautiful area. So, are there any questions at all about what we're doing here?
On the agenda, and I might have been misreading it, I thought that our action was on signage, not on an endorsement.
When I met with Kathy and Cynthia, I thought you guys were coming to ask if you could put up signs and literature throughout the town, perhaps put something at the library.
Well, we got that information from Terry. I don't think that the intent of our meeting here is not to ask whether or not we would be able to put signage in. We do have that information. We would like to have the opportunity to have signage.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood. What information from Terry? I mean, Mr. Gilbertson?
Yes.
Usually when people want to put signs up in town, on town property, they come to the Board of Selectmen and we give permission or not. So that's what I understood that was
Okay.
what this was about, and also enable you guys to
Kathy,
give a
is there anything
presentation.
you want about the signage that you had?
Well, most of us, we are planning to put some signs up around town, but they would be on private property, but
Oh, okay.
We had considered doing one larger sign in the triangle here.
Okay.
And so we would like permission to do that as
Okay.
well.
Okay, thank
We
you.
plan on putting a sign on the property, but that, of course, would not be a fixed sign.
Right.
That might be on a tractor or something. So we would not need to have a permit.
Right, because
for
it wouldn't be town property.
So if you would like to have a sign right here, maybe have a presentation in the town hall, that would be wonderful.
We want to do what you want. We want to give permission to what you would like to do, so, I mean, or not permit, we'd like to vote on what you want to do in terms of signage. I'm not clear what you Do you want to put any signs on town property, or?
One so far.
Yes.
One so far, correct? That's it?
Right.
Okay, and the size of that sign is?
About 50 feet by,
A billboard?
It's still in the design stage, but it would be at least 4x4, potentially 4x8,
Okay,
so it's largish.
okay, and the dates on the sign being up?
Just the month of May.
For the month of May, okay.
we hope to have this completed by Memorial Day.
Okay, because it's, okay,
And we're looking for a closing in June.
okay, all righty.
We're hoping that the Board of Selectmen would be in favor and endorsing that. I know that this is consistent with the plans that the Board of Selectmen have. So I just wanted to come
That
here.
part, I apologize, I didn't understand, and I didn't put it on the agenda because I
That's
didn't
fine.
know that. I'm sorry. So, at this point, let's take up the sign first. We just
Okay.
want one sign, and described as roughly 4 by 4,
4x8.
4 by 8 on,
Up
Yep.
to 4x8.
up to 4 by 8. And where's it going to go?
The triangle.
In the triangle. Okay. In the month of May. And I don't think that'll conflict with anything else, but I'm not sure. You have to be careful of sight lines, obviously. So, if you have any question about that, I guess you check.
Massaro Farm had asked for a banner and some other things. I'm not sure of the dates, but I remember in the previous meeting. Yeah, we just gotta, just so it doesn't conflict with whatever
Right.
you're doing. Some things here, but that's the only thing that I.
You're going to look in the minutes?
I think that was the last
Is it
meeting,
in there?
wasn't it?
Okay.
I'm sorry, because
No
what did you
problem.
just approve for the garden club? What was, when and where, what was the?
The dates, June.
I should have.
I think it's June.
Okay, so it's that, so that's
Right,
not
I
a
think it's
problem.
June. I remember reading it, June.
Yes, it was June 2nd.
This is
The
what
Boy
happens
Scouts-
when we have 3-hour meetings.
Right, so that's not a
I know the
problem.
Boy Scouts
The
are.
the Boy Scouts do have a flower sale there a couple Saturdays in May, but we'll ensure there's no conflict.
Okay, yeah.
And the Boy Scout signage isn't really on the triangle. The Boy Scout signage is.
Well, but the actual sale is on the triangle, and Selectmen previously.
We did, I remember, right. Yeah, okay. So why don't we take up the proposal of the sign first? And I'll make a motion that we approve the sign on the triangle 4 by 8 for the dates of the month of May, right? Or April?
Correct.
May, what do you want?
Well,
May,
through
okay,
May.
sorry.
I'll say.
2018, okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Go ahead. We have a motion now, so go ahead and ask.
Yeah, I said.
Yeah, Joe did, yep.
The Friends of the Library is having a book sale in June. Didn't they request a sign for May?
Yeah, you did.
Yep,
So we can have more than one sign.
we sure can.
I
We
think
just have
we
to be
could-
care of sight lines.
We
have
could
to-
approve
yeah.
this subject to the folks working together to.
How would that be? Everybody's going to get along,
Put
right?
it someplace else if it needs to.
I don't think we'll have a problem with that. We don't have a sign, guys.
No, we don't. We can't. We tried to look into that, and it was so complicated to under sign policy.
Sign person, so we have to rely on. the
Correct.
folks.
So you guys can work it out.
Oh,
Okay.
Boy Scouts is April 7th through May 5th.
There's
So that's not.
And then the
only on weekends.
Yeah, it's only.
Only on weekends.
and then the flower sale.
The sign is up.
The flowers go through May 6th.
Okay. Well, I'm okay. Well, anybody-
On weekends.
I think
I
we
thought the
can.
Boy Scouts did it like closer to the library. Triangle, I think of as the the Esplanade in the middle.
No, they sold them there
They-
last
they
year.
used the triangle.
They used
They used that,
triangle.
yeah. That's where they set up.
So we should all try to get along and do our best with signs. So
Yeah.
I will call the question unless anyone else has any questions.
I just want to
Shoot.
confirm that the sign isn't going to have like an endorsement from the town because that wasn't part of this.
No, we haven't
Action.
done that yet.
We haven't-
This
Right,
is just a
okay,
sign.
just to put up a sign.
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Got your signed. Okay.
Great.
Are you putting anything up at the library? Because I remember at one point when we talked, there was an easel or
I've
something.
spoken with the people at the library, and they're going to give us a display space also.
Okay. We need to give permission for that?
Oh, the library.
Library did it, it's done. Okay, great. Okay, now, as far as the next issue about whether or not an endorsement from the town is, I apologize, I didn't know you wanted that this evening, so I didn't put it on the agenda. I could entertain a motion that we add it to the agenda, or we can take it up.
What would we really be doing?
Let's have him tell us.
What do you actually want us to
You're endorsing the use of the space for agricultural purposes. It's consistent with
No, I
the
don't
plan.
have a problem with that. I mean, I'm not.
We're just
I'm not
saying that
against
this
it.
is where we're doing the legwork. We're trying to accomplish the mission of what we want within the town for the use of the land. We think it's the type of use of the land that we'd be looking for.
Okay, I appreciate it, I understand it, but the town is not, we're not using town funds or
No
anything,
town
right?
funds will be
And we're
expended,
not-
as I understand.
The town's not buying these development
Correct.
rights, correct?
Absolutely not.
This is also
Unless
private-
you want to
it's private
entertain that
sale.
as a motion.
No, what I'm trying to get at is why we should be endorsing your private deal. That's what I'm trying to get
It's
at.
private
Because it's
property.
consistent with the state's use of the land. It's consistent with the town. It improves not only our town but the state.
All good
So-
reasons for you to do what you're doing.
So we're
I don't-
just-
But why do we endorse?
I guess because we're asking for it.
Well, with all due respect, that we can't just do everything that somebody asks us to do.
Well, first of all, we have to decide whether or not we're going to add a motion to, add a line item to the agenda
Well,
to do this, correct?
unless there's,
Am I
I
right,
mean, I
Jerry?
Well,
guess
you don't have to. I
if
mean,
there's a reason to do it, we could do that. But
Okay.
I'm just questioning why we would endorse,
I'm just curious, so if your efforts were not successful, what would be the
They
disposition
will
of
be,
that property?
will be successful.
But if they were not, what's the downside on it? I guess what I'm saying is,
Well, the downside would be that it would be developed as light industrial.
okay. So your efforts are obviously
Are to save the farm.
to basically preserve it.
Preserve
as
a
the property
historical
is
piece
now.
of property that was granted from a king's grant in 1660 that is just vital to our area.
And you're asking
For
that
those
the
of us
board,
who've lived here our whole lives,
vote.
we value that. Yes.
you're asking that the board vote to support that, to indicate we support that effort.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm understanding, correct?
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
would our support have any effect on the state funding for the purchase of this property?
No, this is a private transaction. Absolutely not.
And this farm is now a private farm,
It has always been a
Right.
private farm.
right, which is zoned agricultural, obviously.
It might be pre-existing.
So
zoning,
your
so-
question is, what is going to be the farm after?
That's
we're done?
that's my question.
Okay.
What use do you envision for that?
So what we do is we buy the development rights. We actually have an agricultural easement on the property, so it will only stay as a farm, period. And we're working with the Connecticut Farmland Trust that will find a farmer who's going to come in and who's going to be working the farm. And they can build a house, maybe 2,400 square feet, a small house for the farmer, and enough area for buildings for, to run a farm. Not more than 5% of the total size of the property, not more than 2% of the prime land soils. So this farmer who will have the opportunity to purchase the farm at a very reasonable amount, who otherwise would not be able to spend, $1 million or whatever it costs for a farm, will be able to come into our community and provide produce or food or whatever it is for residents of Woodbridge.
Can I follow that up just, so
Yeah.
how would our endorsement or approval as you request help you in your mission? How's that gonna help?
Well, because we all work together as a community, and we have all these organizations. We have the Parks Association, the Garden Club, the Historical Society, Mazzaro Community Farm, and the Land Trust working together. I think it's a wonderful thing that we've all come together, and we through this whole act, we kind of feel that we want to join together because we have similar goals. And we want the town to show that you have the same goals and have the same vision that we have for the town.
If I might, it's a reaffirmation of what we already have in our town documents, the Plan of Conservation and Development, the Conservation Commission. This should not be a surprise to anyone that this is a valuable piece of land, both for its scenic beauty, in particular for its scenic view, but for its agricultural use as well. And so what we're asking the board is simply to affirm its commitment to what other boards and commissions of the town have done. We're not asking you to go beyond that. We are not asking you folks for money. We want to be very clear about that.
Do you have boards and, these are, just for clarification, boards and commissions, these are actually not boards and commissions that have,
Conservation Commission
Okay.
has it as part of its plan,
Okay.
and TPZ has it in the Plan of Conservation and Development. So I think,
Gotcha,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Sheila, will this have any impact on our sustainability Connecticut status?
I don't think that, because it's going
It's
to
not
be
checked
privately
because it's not
done,
changing?
and we're not party to any grant that's involved in it, so it would be a private sale.
Like it is now?
Yeah, this might be the first time the town has endorsed a private transaction totally outside any of the public properties. It is consistent with our plan of conservation.
Is it? Right, it is consistent, and
Yeah.
the trust is kind of tied to the town or works with the town in these matters, I would
Right.
think. So, I mean, there is some connection between.
I'm just pointing out that this is a private, you're absolutely right, but this is a private transaction. We have never, as far as I know, endorsed a
but it's a
private.
private transaction being funded by state money in part.
Yep.
And we are not a private, we are a 501c3, which means we're not your next door neighbor in the sense of a private party. It doesn't involve the town, but it does involve public monies and nonprofits.
Additionally, am I correct in understanding that you're saying this property would be available to residents of the town for
Absolutely.
recreation purposes?
Well, that's part of our mission, is that
Understood.
everything that we do is for public use. So part of the stipulation is that our hopes are that we have walking trails for the public to use.
Right. So from that perspective, again, in my mind, I see a very clear connection between benefits to the residents in our group.
Mm-hmm.
So from that perspective, I can, it's different in my mind than two entities just having a transaction and one of them coming and say, hey, geez, I'd like you guys to endorse this. So that's the way I'm seeing it.
Is this similar in structure to the Massaro Farm vis-a-vis the town?
No.
Okay.
Okay, because Mazzaro Farm, the property at Mazzaro Farm is owned by the town, and they have a lease on that property. We hold the grant of conservation restriction on that property that the town owns. So Mazzaro does not own the property. Okay, the only thing we're doing is we're making this possible for a farmer to live and work on that land. We're not taking ownership of the property. We're just actually funding that somebody could do this who otherwise wouldn't have the means to do it.
And that means that the land remains taxable because it's not being held by or the state.
So the farmer would buy the land from the trust?
It's the way it works, basically. Yes.
With very specific restrictions, if you will. In terms of how that
Now we hold the easement on the property, 100% of the property. The state of Connecticut will hold the easement on the agricultural parts of the property minus the trails. Okay, so the trails and the areas for public use will be only held by the land trust.
Any other questions? Would someone like to make a motion going forward that what do we have to do? Legally?
I don't know if we need more.
Two-thirds vote to add it to the agenda like we did before,
Okay.
and then you go into the motion.
So I'll make a motion that we add to the agenda Woodbridge Land Trust requests that we endorse, I guess, their purchase of the development rights at the Baldwin. Is that what
It's listed in,
the Baldwin parcel?
what's the,
The Baldwin Road Farm.
Baldwin Road Farm,
Or 902 Baldwin.
902 Baldwin Road, the
Right.
Baldwin Road Farm.
okay.
That's good.
Is there a second?
Second.
But
Okay.
this is to add it to.
This is to add to the
right,
agenda.
To the agenda,
Right.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
I did.
Did everybody vote?
Yeah.
I didn't.
Okay.
Oh.
To add it to the agenda,
To tonight's agenda?
yeah,
Yes,
I thought we were just voting on signage tonight.
right, but we didn't,
right.
I know,
So I am not really prepared to vote on an endorsement after we
okay.
didn't get the material until.
We're just adding it to the agenda to then go forward, so, okay. So what, so,
So, yeah, you can add it to the agenda.
okay, that's 5-zip, okay, thank you.
So I'll make
6-zip,
I'll
sorry.
make a motion that we, that the Board of Selectmen endorse or approve the mission of the land trust in purchasing the
Support, maybe.
support,
is the best.
support, that's a good word.
Yeah.
So we, the Board of Selectmen, support the land trust in their purchase of the development rights at 902 Baldwin Road, the Baldwin Farm.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any other questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Thank you.
there you go.
I did.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did I forget anything up to number 13?
I think I'm on 13 too.
Doesn't.
Okay, good.
Bottom line.
But other than that, it doesn't.
But we're endorsing something that you haven't looked at. It's a problem.
Didn't say that. Yes.
Okay, item 13, Tony. You're up.
All right. Get all those letters in it.
What? Everybody left.
I'm not going to take it personally.
What's up?
Tony,
It's
clear
not
the
you.
room.
Bobby's here. Hi,
Not you,
Bob.
it's them.
Oh, thanks, Bob.
Yeah.
So could we, motion to adjourn?
My second.
Yeah, second. Okay, so
Practically
motion and
tomorrow.
any discussion?
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay.
You have the floor
Thank you.
in the room.
So I'll try to be brief in light of the time here. So we've, our surplus has gone down since last month, and to roughly actually no surplus at all, but no shortfall at this point. And there are mainly three items that have come to light that I want to share with you. The first is that our taxes, our tax collections may result in a deficit this year of about $50,000 because we had to pay on a tax appeal, if you remember, about $80,000 for in current year funds. And so I was hoping that we were going to make that up with some other collections. I'm not sure we will. Our tax collectors working hard to hopefully close that gap, but conservatively at the moment, I put in a deficit of about $50,000. The second item is, as the superintendent alluded to earlier, the Board of Ed's deficit has increased to $91,000, up from $67,000. So that's another $23,000, $24,000 that we have to cover in the existing operations, should you decide to do that. So I put that in as another additional short funding that we need to take care of. And finally, at the Board of Finance meeting where the budget was adopted, this is for your review later on in the meeting. The Board of Finance rather reduced the Board of Education budget request by $50,000 and would like to put $50,000 in a reserve fund that they hoped to build over time to help offset the sometime large swings of special education. In other words, to use the reserve fund in years where there's a deficit of special education, as opposed to using current year dollars to try to just sort of smooth out some swings that have happened in the last few years. So as a result, that's $50,000 from the Amity surplus that will no longer be available at year end. So those three items alone is about $125,000. Now, in addition to that, since the last week we had the homicide and the investigation is continuing, there is a possibility of some overtime issues in police. So we will have a much better idea of what that is at your next meeting. Because there are some vacant positions in police, so it's a possibility that some vacant positions could help offset the overtime, and there may not be an impact, but I just wanted to bring it to your attention.
You're not the right person to ask, but why does the little town of Woodbridge and their police force investigate a major crime? Isn't the state supposed to?
You're right, I'm not the right person to ask.
Right.
I would want to chime in, we're not that little.
We are.
We have a $3 million 27-person force, so I wouldn't say we're that little. I'm not arguing with
No.
you.
I agree with your question. But I'm saying, is that really our mission?
Well, that's a jurisdictional thing.
Yeah, and that's an issue I'm not.
But is there? But following that up
I could
a
tell
little
you
bit,
we have 3 officers, detectives who are working, in addition to the large amount of personnel on the actual day of the event. That comes,
Right.
that goes. That one particular day was just a lot of people in general, but ongoing are mostly detective investigative services.
And listen, we
I
have
think
to
there's
rely on them as the professionals to know how to do that. But my question is there any way to discuss with them, can they make other adjustments within the department?
We are working to do that so they can
Because,
fund this within the
you know,
department. Yes.
I just had one guy stop me rolling through a stop sign, so he obviously wasn't all that busy. So, and I'm not trying to be flip, but maybe there's a way that we can still protect the citizens, but alter some patrols or something and save some of that money within their own budget.
I'll certainly bring that back.
Just a thought.
Yeah. Okay.
Wouldn't hurt to understand a little bit about the support resources we might be getting from the state and or other organizations.
Perhaps the chief can,
Yeah, I think
at the appropriate time,
Yeah,
could update.
when
You know,
perhaps
just,
they
yeah,
have
yeah,
some
probably be a good
resolution,
thing.
or maybe Tony will pass along.
I'll pass that along,
what he-
absolutely.
You know, and then when it's
If
appropriate, we
nothing
can get
else,
an update.
so we understand
Right.
it better,
Yep.
so
Yeah.
there's less questions
I
going
believe we're
forward.
required to cooperate somehow with state officials.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure they have
They create the
obligations.
overtime.
I have a feeling the state police are involved.
Yes.
There is,
They are
right.
major crime.
There are 4, as I understand it, if I can say this, because I guess Frank told me, there are 4 organizations investigating right now.
Right.
Woodbridge Police, State Major Crimes, Connecticut State Police, and then the state's attorney's office. Is that correct?
I would assume that's.
I think
what
that's
it
what he
is,
told me.
yes.
That's
I don't
correct.
think we can minimize Woodbridge's role in that, and I'm not trying
Right.
to do that. I'm just saying maybe they can help find an offset to that.
Yeah, one offset is there's they have some vacant positions that haven't been filled, and I think we've talked about delaying that until we can help cover some of the overtime.
That would
That's
be
one
help-
example
that would
we
be
talked
helpful.
about today. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Those are the major changes from last month.
Item B, tax refunds. In your package, you have a memo, as always, from our tax collector regarding a request for refunds for taxes, and there were no personal property refunds this month. Real estate refunds are $5,528.51. Motor vehicle refunds are $1,205.72 for a total of $6,734.23. And I'll make a motion that we approve this as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you. All in favor? Aye. It's unanimous? Yep. Okay, thank you. Item C, funding requests. I'll turn this part over to Tony.
Okay.
Thank you.
First thing I want to bring to your attention is that should you approve the funding request this evening, the contingency fund will be at $72,000. Okay.
So July 1.
Correct.
And what's on the horizon? Do we know of anything?
That could come up for use of contingency?
Yeah.
One is the fire department. They had requested to transfer, let's see, it was around $25,000, and the Board of Finance did not approve that. Instead, suggested that the fire department try to find it within its own budget, and if they can't, then they would transfer up to that amount. So that's a possibility there.
Okay.
The rest.
What about?
I think that's repair and maintenance of vehicles or something.
Right, it has to do with the,
right?
a lot of it has to do with the fire on Inwood Road.
Right.
And
A lot of stuff broke.
the storms that just
That was
came
when
up.
everything froze.
Yeah.
and all that.
Correct,
Exactly.
yeah, right.
Department of Public Works, I know, has done a ton of work in regards
That's
to
later on in this agenda.
But is that going to impact contingency?
It's already factored into that number I gave you. Yeah.
What about police overtime?
Well, that's another possibility.
Right, because
Police
if they can't
overtime.
find enough.
Correct.
within it, so.
Yeah. So one option you have, which we can consider, is as part of the budget deliberations, the Board of Finance wanted to reduce by $50,000 next year's capital budget and fund 2 projects this year out of contingency. That was before the investigation and before the most recent storms that we had. And that's the first 2 transfer requests. So, which is the animal control vehicle and the Beecher North tennis court repairs. We could decide to put off one of those. I would suggest the tennis court repairs as the vehicle we've done some work on, although you could delay both. But wait until see how the police issue wraps up. I mean, that's an option that I'd have you consider.
Do we
just to be, yeah.
I'm sorry. Do we vote on that, or is that up to the Board of Finance?
Which these you have to vote on both of them.
And then we send them to them and they decide.
Then they vote. Okay. So it's a 2-step process.
Okay.
And,
I know that there's a vehicle, as I understand it, that's
a
used
vehicle, right.
that she just located, and it's about 18,000, 17,
Right.
18,000, and
Right.
it's available now.
Correct.
And her vehicle is on its last legs. It's in repairs. We put a lot of money into it, and I think that may be more pressing than
It's more pressing than the
tennis
tennis court
courts.
repairs, right? The reason why I picked these 2 though is because the tennis court you can get a jump start on and people can use the courts.
right.
You know.
So what do we do? We have 72,000.
Right.
So, and we just mentioned 2 or 3 things that could impact that. What do we do when we're out of the contingency money?
Well, you manage it hopefully so that doesn't happen.
I know that.
But if that does happen, what you do is a request from fund balance. And there's rules in
okay.
Yeah, and there's guidelines in the charter that indicate how you request money from fund balance and who has to approve it and how the process works. We did it one time when we purchased. Yeah, we did it one time when we purchased phase 3. I think it was of the Racebrook track. I think that's the last time we did that.
So, but we would then be talking about not only the 400 we've already spent,
Correct.
plus the additional Amity money that's going in there.
Right.
More, so we'd be looking at almost like a $900,000.
Correct.
$900,000
That's correct.
deficit.
That's correct.
For the current.
That's correct. A big chunk of that was the state.
I guess I'm saying that to say that if there's anything we could kind of put off, and if that's not urgent for the next few months until we see what that
My
contingency
personal
looks like.
opinion is that the truck is urgent. Maybe, I don't know.
The vehicle.
The vehicle is
I
urgent.
would put off
but
the tennis court repairs.
Okay. But it's up to you guys together.
That would be about $100,000 contingency, which is half the contingency fund remaining. You could put the 2 of them off at just the vehicle. We would have.
Well, the vehicle is an opportunity.
It's an opportunity, right?
That's
why we wanted to go forward with
Good,
it.
what is it called? Good money after bad, or bad money
Well,
after good? Or, I don't know.
the other thing is, we have a lot of tennis courts in town. We have them at the high school, and we have them
Right.
by the softball field. So,
right.
And there's only 1 or 2 tennis courts at Beecher, if I recall. I think it's 2, probably 2.
I'm not sure.
I don't know. I haven't been there a long time.
And they've always been in bad shape. But
Yeah.
Right. So that's I think.
Okay.
That's what I would suggest.
All right.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
To
hold off on the tennis courts.
Okay, all right. So I'll make a motion that we approve funding request number 1718-13, the amount of $26,000 to request.
You said it was 18.
Yeah, it's 18 plus some outfitting costs,
And
some
probably won't be
light
that
bars,
much.
some decals. It's probably, if it goes through, we wouldn't use all 26. You'd keep the rest in the account, and then you could transfer it for other purposes. You could reduce it to
So we're approving up to 26.
up to 26, right?
On an opportunity that's 18 plus some.
Correct.
Modification.
Now, what has to happen is once we finalize this and we move forward, in your May meeting, you have to actually approve of the purchase because it's over a certain amount, and we're not going to bid for it. So, there's some purchasing aspect to this. We just haven't gotten that far yet in the process. So that would be in your May meeting.
So we're just approving right now the transfer of the funds
Correct.
to
Cover
allow for
it.
this.
Right.
Got it. Okay.
But it won't actually be purchased until we go through some more paperwork and put it together, a proposal.
So we'll have a better financial idea then too,
Right.
in terms of.
You will. I just don't know if we could wait until then the Board of Finance has to do it at the end of the month.
Right.
That's sort of the time crunch.
And then if
you have the funding for it, that helps to reserve the vehicle.
if there's a balance left after they buy and outfit this vehicle, what happens to that
It
excess?
stays in that line until it's appropriated for another purpose by the same process that you're doing
Just
here.
line item transfer.
It's a line item transfer for another purpose, right? It can't be used just for anything. It's got to be used for the specific purpose that you identify.
Okay, so I made a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I suppose the other thing you could do is a not to exceed. Sometimes we do that. And then
Wanna
that
do not
gives
to exceed?
But
that
that up
gives
to was the same thing.
flexibility. Well, no, this would transfer a flat 26,000. Not to exceed would say, okay, anything up to 26,000, and
but
if it's
the other money
less,
just stays
it
there.
would stay in contingency.
That's a
We could do
better-
that.
I like that a
That's
lot.
better.
Up to,
Yeah.
okay.
I like that.
I'll amend my motion.
Not to exceed.
Yeah,
Friendly.
we've done that before.
Not to
Okay,
exceed.
good idea.
Okay.
Okay.
Terminology are we using?
Just use not to
Not to
exceed.
Not to exceed 26,000. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do I need to make a motion, or should we just agree to postpone the tennis courts? What's the legal way to do it?
If you don't approve it, you don't need it.
No action.
No
Okay,
action.
does
Yeah.
everyone agree on that?
Yeah. Does the contingency start
You don't even have to
over
table it, it's just
for
not-
July
the
1.
fiscal?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
The board took
We
no
have to
action.
put something,
Pocket
because
veto.
otherwise it's out of secret with the numbers.
New table.
Sure. I'll make a motion that we table funding request number 1718-14. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Thanks, guys. Okay, no, is there any other funding requests?
Yep. There's a couple more.
Okay. Keep going.
Oh, this is a plus.
Yeah, okay, discussed earlier in my report, I'll make a motion and then we can talk about it. Line item transfer number 1718-15 in the amount of $3,000. Transfer a donation from the Bethwood Baseball League for clay material and overtime related to league tournaments. And there's a memo attached, and.
The line item transfer go to particular
Yes.
fund?
Yeah.
Rec- Parks and Rec?
It goes to overtime and to maintenance and supplies and for parks, right? And we work with Adam to come up with a split.
Yep.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion or questions on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Take the next one.
Okay.
Exhausted.
Well, you can put it on you can announce it now. So the next one is the one we discussed that the Board of Finance had suggested at their budget meeting, when they adopted or recommended the budget. And that's to create the reserve account for the Board of Education special education costs. This would be a reserve account that would be held specifically should the Board of Education have special education costs that are either outside their budget or that the town feels needs to be covered in any other years. In other words, the idea for this account is that it goes beyond this fiscal year and stays as a reserve account for the future.
Is the idea that we fund this every year?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, only
No.
as needed.
As needed and as funds allow, and as you sort of use as a guide to, some years you could fund it, some years you may not, some years you may use it.
Is there a basis?
What I would do is come up with a guideline or a policy that dictates how this is used and who makes the decision.
Is there a basis, I mean, is it the thought that we're going to use it because we had a surplus? In other words, should we consider it any time there is a surplus type of thing, or?
I think the original thought was because
Whatever you want to call the money they get back.
because they have a large deficit, and this is the second year in a row that they were hit with.
No, I'm sorry, because we received, like, Amity gave us back
Yes,
money.
it's
So
because
we had
Amity gave
money.
us the money. Yep,
Because
that's exactly
we have
right.
something there, so
Yes.
let's use that money
Correct.
for this.
That's correct.
Well, I think also Gilbert's report had indicated that they're seeing a trend
Right.
with relation to special ed, and I think it's pretty smart to have some money reserved for this because this could happen again.
We try to the extent we can, try to protect against expenditures that could escalate quickly or that can be out of control without any control by the town. I mean, we've done it on a number of items. You know, our debt service, we're very careful on. Retiree health care is another one. So this is a smaller one, but I think one that the board felt.
Support, I'll make a motion that we.
Which fund is this coming out of?
Reserve, didn't they reduce the budget for next year?
They reduced the Board of Education budget next year by $50,000. So the idea is,
What are we calling that fund that we're getting it from?
it's coming from the Amity surplus funds. Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we.
I'll second.
Do this, okay. Any further
We
discussion
approve
on
line item
this?
transfer 117/18.
Thank you. There's a second, right? Terry seconded it. Okay, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Bid awards, right?
No, we have one more.
One more, yep. Okay, yep, you're right. I'm sorry. I just want to zoom through them, so I'm tired. Thanks, okay.
The final one is for overtime and rental, outside services that we had help us remove brush from the side of the road. So as a result of the storms that we had, the multiple storms that we had, and so it's, as you can see, we were able to get almost $20,000 from within the department itself, and the remaining $60,000 is from contingency. This is an example of why we don't use our contingency fund
Till
till
the end of the year.
the end of the year.
There goes my curtain. Sorry.
Contingency typically 200. I know you're, unless we know something.
Unless you know of something,
Right.
yes,
But
200.
typically it's 200.
Yeah, actually, in the budget, the Board of Finance reduced it to maybe 185
Yeah,
This
next year.
for next year, yeah.
And have we typically,
We typically have money at the end of the year, yeah. Because we tightly control it. I know in a lot of other towns, it's
pretty loose.
So like a loose
Fun.
thing. Oh, let's do this, let's do that, let's do this. But we're very, very tight control on it until at least April 1st.
Till now.
Yeah. Until we've gone through the snow season. It looks like there's no major police investigations, special education.
go.
Those are typically the three that use contingency the most.
I was just curious if that was all.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we approve line item transfer and funding request number 1718-17 in the amount of $79,500. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay.
Biddle.
Is that it? Yay.
Yeah.
Okay, I keep turning the page.
We just have one. We don't
Yes.
have the library. The crane has not. Will be for next month.
Okay.
So you could take that one off.
All right, so we're skipping our Public Works garage crane and we're moving on to library humidity HVAC system. Do you want me to make a motion first? And
I'll give you some
second?
background.
All right, go for it, yeah.
So you probably remember this from the budget process, but the library has had some humidity issues for quite some time. And while I'm not an expert on it, I know that it's pretty humid there in the summertime. And so we went out to bid for a fix to that problem. And it was in the budget for about $250,000. And the Board of Finance has suggested, and removed it from the budget, suggests that the project will be funded by the Noyes D. Clark Trust Fund. That's a trust fund that was started back in the 40s, maybe, I think, with the original principal, 1940. Yeah. Original principal amount was about $40,000, if I remember correctly, and it's a non-expendable trust, which means you can't expend the original principal. Right?
Just interest.
It's just the interest. So now the balance is it's in the $300,000 range, $350. It fluctuates with the market. And it's one of the only, there's 3 trust funds that do not fall under the Connecticut General Statutes and the guidelines for our investing. And it's the Noyes D. Clark Fund, which is for the library, the Common Investment Fund, which is for the cemetery, and the OPEB Fund, which is for other post-employment benefits. Those 3 trust funds are administered by and reviewed by the investment committee, which Joe here represents the Board of Selectmen. And we have those periodically, probably quarterly. And so anyway.
Purpose of the noise.
It was for, if you read the trust fund, there's a trust document, which I'd be happy to send to you. And
No, I was just,
it's
general. It's not specific to the library.
It's just specific to the library, yes.
Okay, so
yes. And it's for general maintenance and upkeep and et cetera, et cetera.
It was the Noyes D. Clark family that gave the money to build the original
Right.
library in Woodbridge and
Right.
invested.
Right. I believe they gave some money to build the original library, and then there was some money remaining, which they put in a trust.
They put in the trust, correct.
So how often do we use that? Why have we used that? That's very good.
No, we haven't used it. We used it to maybe buy some fixtures. Not significantly, no, since I've been here. It's been collected.
So it makes sense.
Jerry remembers something.
Well, I remember, but I don't remember using it, but I know about the trust.
Yeah.
Tony and
Yeah.
I talked about it.
And we had Joe Fozzie a while back do an opinion on it, on the use of the trust, and how much we can use and how much we have to keep in the trust and how it works and who has to approve
we could ever
it.
invade principal, and he said no, it's limited just to the
Right, right.
And the trustees are the
Investment committee. Right.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion that we approve,
So we went out to bid. We received three bids, and the base bid was, and there was an alternate, and the base bid was for Bob, that was in the basement, right? The exchange unit?
Yes.
Right, down in the makeup unit, right. And then, so that addresses the humidity issue. And then there's also the alternate was for the returns in the top floor?
Yes,
Right.
in the children's area.
In the children's area, right.
3 or 4 units upstairs and 3 or 4 units downstairs on the main floor that needed to be looked at.
Right. So this addresses the humidity issue if we just do the base bid, correct? And
Yes.
Yeah, right.
That's just for the fresh air makeup.
Fresh air makeup, yeah.
So, I'm sorry. So the base bid covers everything that's required?
It's required,
And the
right.
alternate bid was for what?
Was for the, in the top the kids' children's library in the first floor there, helps distribute the air better, correct?
So it would be the
Right.
base bid plus the,
We don't have money in the trust to do both.
right, okay, so.
So phase one, right.
Okay.
We will have to do phase 2 probably through the budget process at some point.
Thank you.
Or if the market, does amazingly well and our investments increase again, one or the other.
So you want to talk about the bidders? or-
Yeah, so we had 3 bids,
I'm
and
afraid.
we did looked into the low bidder, which came very highly recommended. That was Save More Cooling and Heating, and they had all the appropriate paperwork. That was for $174,400. That's our request.
Now?
The library is very anxious in having this done. So,
Okay. So I'll make a motion that we approve the bid award for the HVAC upgrade at the library to Save More Cooling and Heating for the amount of base bid of $174,000 $174,400.
Second.
Any further discussion or questions?
Yes.
Shoot.
In light of what happened at Beecher Road, how do Beecher Road School with the heating system?
Mm-hmm.
How do we avoid that here? How do we protect ourselves from that happening here?
We have a building maintenance, there's a computer system that controls all of the equipment, and we have our building maintenance staff that will never let that happen.
We're not changing that, right?
No, we're just doing the makeup air unit.
Because that's the issue over there, where it was new and there was someone who they were
Correct.
properly trained.
Correct, yeah.
I'm just saying.
We'll hear about that at a later date,
This-
exactly
this-
what happened
okay.
there,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, any other questions? Motioned and seconded, yes, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. And item E, regional telecommunication service credit, designate Medcom.
This is an annual thing that we do. And it's to assign our CMET. We get eligible for a credit for being part of a regional telecommunication service, which is our CMED services. So it's essentially a pass-through of this credit to our CMED services, which is Medcom. The amount is $2,652.60. We do this every year.
Every year.
Yeah.
Okay. Someone else like to make a motion, or?
What are we making a motion for?
To assign that the credit that we get to our service provider.
I'll make the motion that we assign that credit that we get to the service provider.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any other discussion or questions?
Who seconded it?
Joe? Okay. Yes, okay. All in favor? Thank you. Okey-doke.
That's it.
Yay, thank you, Tony,
Okay.
very much. Moving on to item, oh, you don't have another?
Nope.
No other, okay.
No other.
Trying not to jump through things. Item 14, Assistant Administrative Officer report. Betsy?
So I will be quick, passing around the memorial bench application form that was discussed at last month's meeting. And the first page, front and back, is the form, which will live on the town website. It's a fillable form so that people can fill it out online. They don't have to deal with the piece of paper if they don't want to. And the second sheet of paper shows you the actual bench that would be requested by residents. There's already one of these benches at Fitzgerald Field. Adam suggested that this is the bench we use. He thought it fits in with the aesthetic and feel of the town, and many of us that looked at it agreed with him. Happy to answer any questions people have about the form or the bench.
Is there a nameplate on it for the?
There is a nameplate on it,
Where
and
would it be located?
it would be located near, not the easiest thing to show you, but in the center, width-wise, and very close to the top.
So, requested location. Are those the only locations we're going to allow?
Yes, so we went.
So we don't have like another box or anything like that?
No, so we went through with Adam and looked at the different public parcels that we have that are frequently used and thought about the amount of available space there. So I've got a list here that would be maintained at Public Works, and it would be slowly whittled down as people requested benches at those specific spots. And obviously this is flexible. It could change in the future. Maybe we want to add some in some spots. Maybe we decide one spot is too crowded and we remove some spots.
And all of the cost is borne by the person who purchases the bench.
Exactly, yes. And that cost, to answer a question you raised last month, David, that cost includes the cost of the actual bench, the shipping cost, the materials needed to install the bench, the labor, and any maintenance. And the cost is subject to change depending on our labor costs and the cost of the actual bench. I don't imagine it changing dramatically anytime soon, but it could change.
Okay.
Someone like to make a motion?
Second.
To approve it. Okay.
Great.
Any other discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I know you spent a lot of time on this, Betsy. It was
Thanks,
back and
Betsy.
forth for us.
Yes, and before me, Coopop spent a lot of time on it.
Right,
Put a lot
exactly.
of
It's been hanging
really
there.
good thought into it.
Right.
Can I just ask a quick question on these benches? The ones on the DeSille property are locked down.
I don't know. Are they
I think they are.
locked down? They are.
They're chained,
Okay.
they're chained
Getting a
and
nod.
locked. In the event that these things are vandalized, who's responsible for replacing them?
So if a resident wanted to purchase a replacement bench, they would be welcome to do that, but the town would not be purchasing replacement benches.
Would our insurance policy cover those benches?
It'd be such a small thing, we probably have a deductible much more than the benches,
Yeah,
and it wouldn't be,
yeah,
it
good
wouldn't be
point.
wise to even make a claim.
So another benefit to this bench is that it is quite heavy. It'd be a Herculean task to steal it.
361 pounds.
It wouldn't. So there are some wooden benches on properties now, which would be a lot easier to steal, unfortunately. But that's one of the considerations that we looked into. This is much more difficult to break, to steal. Any sort of damage would be. You'd have to put a lot of effort into it.
And you can't carve into them either.
Right.
Envisioning
Right.
somebody
Yeah.
putting in a memorial bench,
Yeah, these are.
thing becomes vandalized, and they come to a meeting.
You really getting in trouble?
Well, do we have any?
Very, very upset about it.
wish I had
Do we have any disclaimer language or anything? I didn't look at it that carefully.
I could certainly add
So
some.
we originally had some disclaimer language.
It's there, I guess.
Is it here?
Sheila just pointed it to
Okay,
me. So they're on notice when they apply.
Yeah.
that,
and if it happens, things happen, we address it,
We'll
we take
deal
care of
with
it.
it.
If it's one bench out of 20, we'll take care of it.
And I probably, did we vote?
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, okay.
We did.
Oops.
I'm just muddying the waters.
No problem. Thank you.
Sheila,
What?
colors?
I defer that one to Betsy.
We decided on black
Black.
to stay consistent.
Uniformity.
Yes.
I also would be remiss if I didn't thank Adam as well publicly.
Yes,
for
Adam
his
was a huge help
help
for
with
this.
this and everything else he does. Thank you.
There are some different colors there.
Okay. Anything else, Bets? That's it?
Just two quick updates,
She has
as you
stuff.
mentioned.
She has a lot of stuff, but I know it's late.
Yeah, very quick. So as you mentioned before, the microgrid has hopefully we've settled on a date. So in the near future, hopefully next week, unless there are additional changes, you'll receive a formal email invitation with more details. So look for that in your inbox.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Item 15, Communication Director, Grant Writer's Report.
Okay, I have a 17-page spreadsheet with 127 lines. I'm going to walk this down. I'm just
table
kidding.
that?
I'm just kidding. So sustainable CT, I'm only
Don't
going
worry.
to tell you the highlights.
We're not going to do that,
So,
I promise.
one of the sustainable CT efforts is the Farmers Forum. I know you got this in your packet. I just want to hold it up for the camera there briefly. And then also, as David mentioned, Coopop and Conservation are going to work together to take the open space plan that exists and put it into the format that we would then upload and get points for. That's a lot of work to put it into the grid format. Luckily, we have Amity interns coming very shortly, and we will try to engage the Amity interns
AKA
with that.
slaves, you know.
And they enjoy sustainability efforts,
Poor
so
things.
when
It's
they're
exciting for them.
plugging numbers in. And then for the communications update, just quickly, I'm going to pass this around. This is a draft version of a little brochure. Betsy and I have gone around to the different town departments. We started with REC because we know they have needs for communications going forward. They're trying to get people to join the pool, and then, so the details are here. And we're catching a typo, which is why it's a draft, thank you. And the back page is going to be about renting the tent. So look for some more detail there on that back page, and that will finalize this document. It will be available for the first open house that REC is holding. I believe that is April 29th. So we're going to do that. We're going to have this online. This link is not yet active. It will be when this is no longer a draft. And then the other town departments that we're going to be meeting with, library, human services. We know that library has, for example, they have a joint event coming up about, it's co-sponsored by the Sustainability Committee and Mazzara Farm. It's about eating and sustainable food discussion circles. So we're going to help promote as much as we can. Then I just want to point out to you two things that have happened. I'm sure you remember when I took your photograph at the last Board of Selectmen meeting. Thank you again for that. That went out in the first news from Town Hall email blast that went out immediately or within 2 days of the board meeting, kind of summarizing what you guys did at the board meeting and asking people to click through the website for more details. So that's gone out. We're going to try to keep doing that. And then I think it was also mentioned that a business e-news blast is going to go out. That's going to contain some information about the disruption that we may be seeing with the construction project on Lower Litchfield, as well as some other additional information for economic development and businesses in the area.
Nice.
So that's the little report.
Thank you. Anything else for Sheila? Town Council's report, item 16.
You have to wait till Megan comes on. No, I'm only kidding. No, I got a second. I'm going to take a line from you. At the last meeting last month, we had on an executive session on a complaint filed by Lieutenant Libby. I just want to give you a 1-second update. We received a hearing notice from the Freedom of Information Commission that the case is going to have a hearing April 19th. We're waiting for the FOI commission person who's in charge of the case to let us know whether the complainant is going to proceed. Hopefully he's not, but we don't know. And if he is, we'll have to be there to take care of it. I'll report to you more next month.
But they reinstated that position, didn't they?
Well, the board voted not to eliminate the lieutenant's position. However, the Board of Finance did not fund the position.
Mm-hmm.
So there is, I think they were meeting with him to tell him that there's no funding for the lieutenant's position. It was a little bit of a strange meeting.
Yeah, but they still have to pay
So,
somehow.
I don't know, yeah.
Vote was 3-1.
There's no funding, there's no money there for
I
it.
know.
So, how's it gonna, you're gonna ask you to pay?
No, that's the chief take a cut.
It's an issue that's an ongoing discussion, I think, between the police commission and lieutenant.
It was a pretty powerful vote.
yeah.
So I don't, since you brought it up, I just don't quite understand. So the position's still there. We don't have any money to pay anybody who
Fund it,
would
yes.
occupy that position.
Right.
Starting July 1st.
So I don't understand how that makes any sense.
That makes two of us.
Okay.
But we're moving it.
Or-
No, it does make some sense. There is, the question is, the Board of Finance controls the finances and the budgets are very.
No, I understand that, but we can't. If the position's there, they're not going to terminate. They haven't terminated the position. Are they going to terminate the individual?
I don't know.
Right. So if the individual stays, he has to get paid.
Unless they don't
But they have no
fill
money to
some
pay him.
vacancies.
You can't pay unless the Board of Finance funds.
Unless
Yeah,
they
but we
take
can't
money
have
from
an
somewhere
employee
else
that we
in that
don't
budget.
pay.
No, well, if you don't fund, then you don't have an employee.
So then they eliminate the position.
They
regardless.
haven't eliminated. They did
Right.
it the first time, the second
But
time
they
they
did. But
did.
they didn't.
By not
That's the
funding it,
conundrum. They
you're
didn't.
technically eliminating it.
That's the HR question, by not
Can
funding it.
Lieutenant Libby come
The
back?
reasons are
I
irrelevant.
know.
I mean, you're right, but the reasons for the position elimination are really irrelevant, and most of them are always budget-based,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
I mean, the effect on the individual was the same regardless, whether he was terminated or the position was eliminated. He's still eligible for unemployment.
Right.
Still,
That's
you know,
right.
as not this isn't a termination for cause, so
Right.
you would be able to collect any, you know, severance or whatever.
Yeah, that's
Right.
correct.
We'll report further on it, I'm sure.
But can Lieutenant Libby come back to the town and say, because the position was approved, I sue the town for funding?
So I would rather discuss this in executive session
Okay. Yeah,
in connection with the litigation
Okay.
At this point.
That question. All right.
But if they don't fill a couple of vacancies, they will not have money.
Pardon me?
If they have 2 or 3 vacancies.
Yes.
They don't fund those, then they have the money.
Maybe. That might be a tough position to take when they're only saying they're short-handed,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's up to them.
So stay tuned. Okay, moving on. Thank you, Jerry. That's it,
Okay,
right?
thank
All
you.
set?
Yep.
Okay, I don't want to keep cutting
No,
people
we're
off
done.
all night
We're
long.
done.
Okay.
Didn't think it would be that
Item
long.
17 is the call of
Sorry.
the annual town meeting. I have to read the recommended motion, if that's okay. In accordance with the Charter of the Town of Woodbridge, Article 3, Section 3-2, the Board of Selectmen hereby votes to notify all electors and citizens qualified to vote in a town meeting of the Town of Woodbridge that the annual town meeting will be held on May 15th, 2017. Is that correct? Is that the correct date? That's not the correct date.
May 21st, 2018.
Yeah, that's why I paused. I paused, I know. I paused, I'm sorry. Yeah, May 21st, 2017 at 7:30 PM, Daylight Savings Time, in the Center Gymnasium, 4 Meeting House Lane, Woodbridge, Connecticut. 2, number 1, elect a town meeting moderator for a 2-year term. Number 2, to consider and take action on the FY19 budget as recommended by the Board of Finance. There's a note there, but it's not part of the motion, so it's just an equal numbered years. The first item on the agenda is election of moderator. But anyway, that is the motion. So I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
What time is that?
7:30 on May 21st. We have a second. Is there any further discussion on the motion? All in favor? Thank you very much. I'll make a motion that we approve the 2 town clerk reports that are in your packet. Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Minutes. The first set of minutes, everybody's packing up. I hear all this rustling. I know it's so late. I'm sorry. March 14th, 2018, the Board of Selectmen regular meeting. I'll make a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion, changes? All in favor? Thank you. What's the next one? Yay. Okay, the next set is February 20th. Is that correct? Is that what you have? Board of Selectmen regular meeting, February 20th, 2018. I'll make a motion that we approve the regular meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion, changes, corrections? All in favor? Thank you. I'm sorry, we have several others just because it was Board of Finance, the joint meetings of the Boards of Finance and Selectmen budget meetings were approved at the Board of Finance meeting. First set is the joint Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen meeting minutes of Tuesday, January 23rd. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Next one is the same, joint Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen meeting minutes of Thursday, January 25th. I'll make a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any additions, corrections, changes? All in favor? Thank you. And the third set is the joint Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen meeting minutes of Tuesday, January 30th. I'll make a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion, changes, corrections? All in favor? Thank you. I think that's it, right? We did them all? Okay.
I have a major motion.
Boom. Okay, I think we're done. Just for purposes, there's a big section of correspondence. We've tried to send. Jerry was really great every single time I got an email from someone. I forwarded it. Great. There's probably more to come after our meeting tonight. And be aware there might be a petition coming. And I will make a motion that we adjourn. Is there a second? Anybody say anything? All in favor? Good. Thank you.